Hello everyone, this is the broadcast team of 6 Digits World Cup 2025 and we will be bringing you some interviews from the players in the tournament.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the 6WC stage. My name is Hubba and joining me today for a pre-match interview is going to be SSD and Creep. SSD is a former 6WC finalist, helping China reach top 3 in the 2023 iteration of the tournament, and is now the coach for all of the major and minor Chinese 6-digit teams. Creep is a standout mechanics player from the team, being one of China's top performers on hard rock and double time picks in these later stages, as well as being a 4-digit in both 4K and 7K Mania. Firstly, a question for Creep. How are you feeling one day prior to your match against Mexico?
Before playing against Moscow, I thought the opposing team was quite strong. The circle might be tight and there might be some surprise, but overall, we just need to focus on playing our best in this match.
And for SSD, China and Mexico have been very close in the statistics over the past couple of weeks, remaining 2 places apart in both the round of 16 and quarterfinals. What do you think will give China the edge in this matchup?
So, like you said, the teams' scores of China and Mexico have been pretty close, but in terms of the individual performance for the Chinese side, I think it's clear that Jack Gu has been the star player of the tournament for China, and the other players, including Creep, has been doing a bit not so great, especially in the round of 16 and quarterfinals. So I think in this match against Mexico, it really depends. For China, it depends on whether Jack Gu can still does his things and whether the other teammates like Creep can step up.
Creep, your profile shows a very large strength in Mania, with both 4-digit rankings in 4-key and 7-key game modes. How did those strengths translate to Osu standard mode?
About Mania, I think the biggest advantage is hand speed. When playing Mania, I think you need to stay fully focused and train your fingers to build muscle memory based on the firing notes. That helps develop hand speed and makes your fingers more flexible. But these are 2 completely different modes. So aside from hand control and speed, I think I still need to practice STD standard mode more.
And SSD, I noticed that most of your favorite beat maps are from the 2015 to 2018 era of classic drum and bass mapping and remixes. What are you most fond of with that era of Osu, and what makes it special to you?
Well, thank you for asking the question. So as you can see on my profile, I joined Osu since 2014, and for the first 2 years, I played mainly Mania, and I started really playing standard since 2016. And around 2018, I've already improved to the level of maybe, I think I remember IFC Best Friends. And that was maybe 140 PP or so around 2018. And since then, until maybe 2022, 2023, I've been steadily improving to, I'm still remaining more or less 6 digits. And so this is kind of the main era in which I played was 2018 to 2022. So a lot of the maps I played were again made from 2016, 2015 to 2018. I wouldn't really say they occupy a special place in my heart. I think that's a bit too much, but it is true that I'm more comfortable with playing those kind of maps.
Creep, you are very familiar with the tournament scene, with recently getting podium placements in both the 6 APC and the OCNT 2025. How hopeful are you that China will reach a podium again on the 6WC stage?
Even now, there are still many skilled players who haven't joined the 6WC. That's led to our team being really unbalanced this year. I'm not familiar with how 6WC was in previous years, so it's hard for me to say more. I'm so sorry.
And SSD, you were on the team when China first reached that 6WC podium back in 2023. What has changed about China's team strengths from then to now?
Yes, I still remember the team where we got to the podium 2 years ago, and we were making the roster review videos for this year, and we just watched the many clips that we played 2 years ago, and yeah, it was a very good memory. But if we look at the rosters, they're just totally different players. I mean, there's one player, Mike, who's been on the both teams, and frankly, he's not the best player in either of the teams. So I think the thing with Chinese teams is that even between year and year, the players we have, they vary a lot. Like old players, most of them, I guess I'd say they ranked up to maybe 80K, and every year we get very new players, even in the minor league teams. I think there's for sure less than half of the players will play 2 consecutive years. I think this is just a trait of China that we always have new players, but it could also be some kind of weakness. You could say that the good players they rank up, so we just lost them.
Creep, out of your teammates, who do you think is the most underrated player and why?
I think the most underrated player might be our Song. I'm not entirely sure. Because everyone on our team has a lot of potential. Our Song tends to get really nervous during matches, but his actual skill is very strong. His hand speed is a bit weaker. He specializes in HD. His other skills are consistent. It's mostly a mental thing. I hope he can use this tournament to improve his mindset. I wish him success in becoming one of China's most reliable HD players one day.
And finally, for the both of you, do you guys have any final words for Mexico prior to your match this weekend?
Mexico is a strong opponent. We will do our best to win, and no matter who comes out on top, I hope both teams will perform well in future competitions. Yeah.
So good luck to both of the teams, China and Mexico, and I really hope the better team can win and will have good luck in the second round against the second opponents in the semifinal, whoever wins the match.
Thank you guys for the interview, and good luck in your match. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 6-digit World Cup semi-finals round. And today we will have the first losers bracket match round of this round. We have seed 6 Mexico versus seed 13 China. And I mean, it's a bit, I'm sorry, I'm very lost for words given the match we just witnessed a few minutes ago. Joining me in the commentary booth will be the one and only Gami Querela, our beloved host. How are you doing today?
I'm like stunned from the match we just witnessed, but I think this, I mean, it's gonna be hard to top the match that we just saw, but gonna zoom into the matchup that we have today. It's gonna be Mexico versus Team China, seed 6 versus seed 13. And William, I think this is a very similar match, interestingly enough, to what we saw from Indonesia and the US. I mentioned before that Mexico is one of those rosters where their seeding was highly carried by their GTs in qualifiers. Number one in one GT3, if I'm not mistaken, and that GT3 is a story in itself. But Mexico is heavily carried by Heidi SA, and of course they have a solid roster across the is a very consistent roster all round. And I think that's going to be a very pivotal point of contention going into this matchup. But if I'm not mistaken, we're gonna jump straight into our No Mod 1 full thrust already very early on.
Yeah, I mean, this No Mod 1 first pick coming out of Mexico, actually. Very, very strange to pick a map such like this, right? This is your No Mod 1, your standard aim consistency, 3 minutes, 30 seconds of it, to say the least. And, this map really doesn't have much to break on, all things considered. It does have those wide-angle jumps that everyone's used to seeing, but at the end of the day, right, this is just a test of nerves for the most part. And, I mean, we'll just have to see who finds those breaks as we get into it right now.
Yep, that's right. This No Mod 1, at the end of the day, all gonna be about that consistent aim, and we are getting into the first jump section of the map. Here we go. Eddie, this is a very cookie cutter bread and butter No Mod 1, and Jish is gonna be the first one to find the miss. As you can see, the jumps on this map pretty large, pretty difficult. And with that miss from Jish, it is going to give some leeway for China to slowly make this comeback. But with that miss from Shuayu, it is going to be a bit harder for China to bring it back as a three-way FC from Team Mexico. Now a two-way FC from Mexico, in fact, is going to hold China back. But those two misses from Mexico, I mean, that might be enough to shift the scoreboard in favor of China once again off the backs of the recovery from Sawa. But Mike is going to find that miss. Oh, dear.
Mike finds that miss on those large jumps just into this next section here, and that is really not good for the side of China now. Mexico holding that two-way, and this is pretty much a free combo part. They have the slight score lead, and now they also have the combo advantage. I mean, Creep is still holding that FC with the recovery combo from Sour Flower, but we're really going to need to see breaks from Mexico if China want to take this anywhere. And, on a map like this, I really don't know if we'll see them. We do see a break from Raspberry, but we really want to see those breaks from those FCs. We're just going to have to wait and see if we see any getting into this TI section where we see more of those wide jumps that we've seen previously in this map.
That's right. It is still, as we've seen throughout the entirety of this map, it's just all about that aim. But as it stands right now, Mexico is still holding that firm foot, not giving China an inch. But that miss from Dish and Heidi is going to be very interesting for China. But China just has not enough response. They don't have a counter attack plan for that miss. And Jose is just gonna continue to elongate that scoreline in favor of Team Mexico.
And China do have the kind of combo lead going to this last third of the map right now, but Jose is still holding that FC with 100k score lead to make up. I mean, this late into the map, any sort of break could definitely flip that immediately, but we are going to need to see that very, very soon. It does look like China is very slowly clawing that lead back because, the FC from Jose, obviously very, very strong score, but it's only going to fend off this Chinese roster so much. You have the very, very solid combos on Sour Flower, Shuri, and Mike, and that score lead is getting very, very close into this last section of the map, but this section right here is where the jumps really, really test you. Just constant wide angle jumps. And this is where we might see the break.
Even enough time though. Oh, it's so close, 60k. But Jose is not missing whatsoever, unless Jose finds a miss, and he needs to find a miss now. It's just not gonna be. Jose finds that miss, and the scoreline shifts over the Team China. Live in a flash of a second, blink and you'll miss it. Team China. In a shocking turn of events, we'll be putting that first point on the board with a break point. Holy crap, William, you called it. You called it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, that last section is so brutal. I remember I broke on it the first time I played that map because the spacing just gets absolutely crazy. And, especially if you're holding a big combo, the nerves can really get to you. And unfortunately, just Jose finding the unfortunate break there, allowing China to steal that point at the very, very end. And a break point, mind you, on Mexico's first pick. Really not how you want to start the match if you are Mexico, and China is just going to be able to respond right back with their first pick.
I think this is a very good start for Team China. I think being the team that's lower in seeding, you really want to try to get as many points on the board as early as possible. And this is giving China some good foundation, good momentum going into the rest of this match. I love, definitely, I think China is going to be very happy with this early break point, but we're gonna start to see the protects coming in from both of these teams. Will, would you like to run us through the bans?
Yeah, we see China going with a Hard Rock 2 Protect and Mexico going with a No Mod 3 Protect. Honestly, this is a little bit shocking coming from China, given that they really struggled a lot with the Hard Rock 2 from last week. But in fairness, it was a very, very different type of map. Last week we had a very, very tricky aim control position map. Well, this week, you have a sort of higher BPM, more, more typical Hard Rock 2. And I think, even though they did struggle in last week's Hard Rock 2, this Hard Rock 2 is definitely more favored towards China than, last week. So, I don't know, maybe they feel very confident in this, but, I would have expected some other Protect come out from the side of China. I feel like Hard Rock 2 is one of those sort of RNG maps, right? Because it's just so short that any sort of miss anywhere, even if you feel confident on it, you can just break and your score will plummet. Meanwhile, on Mexico, we see the No Mod 3 Protect. I mean, I'm not super surprised here. Mexico have been performing on these No Mod 3s very well. They got a very, very solid score on the No Mods during qualifiers, I do believe. So not too shocking to see that here. And it seems like Mexico will be getting into China, will be getting into their first pick of Hard Rock 1. Any thoughts on this pick, Gami?
I think people love Hard Rock 1. I think this has been the most popular map that we've seen in this round. I believe so, yeah. I think I've seen it in every single match that has been played. This Hard Rock 1 was one of the first few customs that we prepared this 6-digit World Cup. This is a custom map by Ducky, and fun fact, this song, Hoo Ha, was one of Ducky's first ever maps. So in essence, this is sort of Ducky going full circle with this lovely Hard Rock 1 custom. One of my favorite customs as well in 6WC full stop. This map is, I don't know if anybody here knows 6WC 2023 Light Tech Incident, but you could kind of compare it to that. This map is the epitome of who the heck put beating in my Hard Rock 1 and features a whole host of, light tech skill sets.
I mean, clearly, right, China going into this are feeling quite confident on the Hard Rock compared to Mexico, right? Like, they protected the Hard Rock 2, Mexico bans out the Hard Rock 3. I mean, I think this is quite logical as a first pick. And yeah, as you mentioned, this map is really, a test of that reading almost, right? You have these slider patterns, which are honestly quite comparable to the qualifiers No Mod 2, right? Like, you can really easily get confused on which end of the slider is the slider head and just misread a slider pattern completely. And we will see some of those very, very tricky slider patterns in this map. A very, very cool map by Ducky, of course. And yeah, I think China, getting that seed 7 actually on that qualifiers Hard Rock 2 compared to Mexico's seed 18, feeling very, very confident, I think, going into this map.
That is right. We're slowly, starting to see the players funnel into the lobby, and I find it interesting that this is China's pick. I don't think China is weak on Hard Rock by any stretch of the word, but this Hard Rock 1 is sort of a map that you typically see higher seeded players, higher seeded teams going for, and I think this speaks less about maybe this is a bad pick or dangerous pick from China and more about how evenly matched these two teams are in spite of their seeding. Like, China going for this Hard Rock 1 pick is a confidence play, and I'm very excited to see how this goes. Once again, your first pick, you want it to be a consistent pick. You want it to be a reliable and confident pick that you can put onto the board to maintain your momentum going into the later stages of this map. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the VIP edit of Fox Stevenson and Kirby's Hoo Ha.
Absolutely right, yeah. And we will, this starting section, not really much to talk about, but we will be instantly seeing those slider patterns once we get into the TI. Jish actually on the side of Mexico finding that break, followed by Haiti actually, some very, very early breaks on the side of Mexico. This really isn't the section that you want to be breaking on. It's really those KIs that, trip most people up. And this kind of speaks of, how uncomfortable Mexico might be on the Hard Rock. But we'll just have to see as we slowly build up into this first KI here, where, I think we will see the most breaks from these overlapping slider patterns.
Yep, that's right. Here we go. Jish and Mike gonna be the first ones to find the miss, but a bunch of misses coming in from Team Mexico, from Zoa Kage and Jish, Tower Flower, Creep, and Shuai right now holding that early lead on the map. And going into the second quarter of the map, it seems as though Mexico really struggling to find their footing, as a complete combo reset is gonna just continue to perpetuate that lead more and more towards the right side.
Yeah, China's still holding that three-way FC strong as ever. Meanwhile, Mexico has almost no combo to respond to that. Sourflower does find the break, but the score lead is almost 400k and rising. And really, Mexico don't really have anything to respond to this absolute dominant performance by Creep and Shuai at all. I mean, what do you even do if you are Mexico right now?
That's right. I mean, 450k going into the second half of the map is not what you want to see. And here we see it, Wowan. China is so confident on Hard Rock 1 as compared to Team Mexico. And I think here's a good point to mention Mexico's weakness, I think. We were mentioning in the pick'em stream that Mexico, being a very lopsided team when it comes to their lineup, will struggle to find those third and fourth players going into every single match. And here, China is just that much more well-rounded. We saw in the No. 1, it wasn't like a sole carry that carried China across the board. It was consistent performances that allowed them to carry that scoreline when Team Mexico gave them that opportunity. And we're seeing history repeat here. Creep might find a miss, and yeah, sure, but China across the board, you're looking at consistent scores and consistently higher scores than what Team Mexico has to offer. And without IDSA having that carry performance, China is just going to run away with every single point that they as a collective are able to maintain consistency on.
Yeah, and I mean, this first pick here, absolutely dominant performance from China. And I think, as you mentioned, they'll want to lean into this sort of consistency-based maps where if you don't have 4 players for the map, you're really gonna struggle. And I think there's a good amount of them in this pool for China to abuse. So, well, I'll be looking forward to see how they abuse that. But 700k score lead on this Hard Rock 1, an absolutely dominant pick here from China. And that's exactly what you want to start off the match, taking your own pick and your opponent's breakpoint. I mean, just very, very solid stuff here from China.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, China having that 2-point lead against a higher seeded team, really proving that seeding does not matter whatsoever. A much better start to what we saw from that match against Team India last round. But, with that, Team Mexico really needs to lock back in. They need to focus up. And I think Team Mexico definitely plays very well, I think, into some of the mechanics picks. So definitely looking for some of that right now. Perhaps being a No. 5, looking at GT2, GT3 maybe even. I think GT3 in particular, it's a double spam map, and if you played qualifiers GT3, I mean, it is pretty similar in that sense. So I really want to see Mexico go for a speed pick here, especially before the second ban phase. China is aware of Mexico's strength on mechanics. That's why they went for the No. 2. So I think they should cut it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, I'm immediately looking at the No. 5, the GT2. Maybe not so much the GT3. I think even though it is
Really?
kind of similar to the qualifiers, I think, it is very, very accessible of a map. Like, even though it is very, very accessible in regards to combo, I think, we've seen a lot of players be able to just FC the map comfortably, and it's mostly about just hacking it. That is the main difficulty of the map, and it's been like a decider in a lot of aspects. But, I think Mexico really here want to go with something they can abuse, right? And I'm thinking more of like the generic speed picks, like your No. 5, your No. 2. I think GT3 can be saved for later, but I don't think is as abusable as some of these other picks that we're seeing in the map pool right now. And you really want to get those out of the way before the second ban phase, as you mentioned.
Oh shit! Is that gonna be a No. 6 IC? That is not something I anticipated from Team Mexico, but if we are keeping in sort of that finger control flavor that Team Mexico seems to exercise a lot of confidence in, this No. 6 makes sense. But at the same time, William, I can't help but feel as though there are more abusable picks going into the second ban phase. I think going the pre-ban phase, you really want to get consistent picks off the table, but Team Mexico is going for a pick that would usually characterize to be something that you would probably see in the mid game, or at least after the second ban phase, right?
Absolutely. I think like similar to DT3, I think this map is quite accessible in regards to combo. But like the main difficulty of this map is acting it well. And I don't know, I really kind of have doubts on Mexico on this pick. I mean,
Same.
if they picked it second, clearly, they have some confidence against China on it, but I do worry that, if China is able to hold through with the combo, even if they lack in the accuracy department, and Mexico finds breaks on some of those more trickier, overlapping or like 4-note patterns, it could very, very easily sway in the side of China, which is really, really not what you want, especially when they are 2-0 up at this stage of the match.
Yeah, very right. And well, we'll just have to wait and see. Perhaps Team Mexico has something that they are, hiding, just don't know about. Once again, and this sort of keeps in line with why I was very hesitant about that normal one pick from Team Mexico, because once again, this map just seems very RNG, or a lot more RNG than Team Mexico would like it to be, as opposed to Team China, who immediately shot off with a absolute execution on that Hard Rock 1. So for that reason, perhaps Team Mexico doesn't really have picks that they're very consistent on, or pick that especially confident on. Perhaps it's just that, or maybe it just sort of passed their mind when they were picking. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just so hard to say. I think maybe Mexico are looking for their carries to sort of like get very high accuracy on this map, and maybe that will sort of give them the edge here. But again, I think this is really a map you need a very solid 4 players for, right? Like, I just think this is a very, very 4-wayable map. Maybe not with good accuracy, but we'll have to see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ebb-Tide. This map is all about, it's the Dragonfire map of all time. All about that polyrhythm, all about rhythm reading as well as rhythmic finger control. Not necessarily doubles, although there are quite a lot of doubles in this map, but it is going to all be about that weird and awkward rhythm. Already we see China finding some early misses here and there, but it is still early days, not going to matter too much. Maybe with that miss from Creep, going to matter a bit more, but as it stands right now, Mexico holding that early lead.
The thing I think to notice here is like the comfort on Mexico based on the accuracy alone, right? I think the accuracies on Mexico are
true.
far higher above China's accuracies right now, and also China finding those breaks, giving Mexico the very, very early score advantage. Of course, like Jish finding the break, Raspberry now finding the break, but it's still quite firmly in their side, I think. It's still only 50k difference, so any sort of break can obviously flip this, but I think we'll just have to wait until we get into some more of these trickier patterns. It is still quite tame at the moment, all things considered.
Yeah, here we go though. Here's where the finger control, the aim becomes a lot more pronounced. The doubles here are a lot more abundant. Mike is really struggling to find his footing in this map right now, and that's giving Mexico that leg room that they need to run the extra mile. Despite the fact that Shuaiyue and Sourflower are trying their best and basically being cancelled by Jose and Heidi Esse, and Reskiet is basically shutting down Creep crafting, not Creep, oh my goodness, Creep's counter-attack right now, but Respiet does find a missed aim, and for the first time, China now has something to respond to the accuracy being presented by Team Mexico by nature of their combo.
Mike keeps finding breaks, unfortunately, on the side of China, but they still have the almost 3-way combo to match the 2-way FC on the side of Mexico, and that is just going to very, very slowly claw the lead back. It is still very, very close right now, just barely under 100k, so any break here on those combos could swing it, but he's getting into the last of the map. We're going to have to see that pretty soon if we want to see China take this back.
Yep, that's right. A break comes in, and it is 91k in favor of Team Mexico right now. And again, it's just the comfort that's really speaking volumes for them. Mexico just has that accuracy buffer to basically shut down any sort of attack that China can muster up on the combo side. And it doesn't help that, as of right now, it seems as though China really struggling with what seems to be a 3v4-ish matchup going into this No More 6. As Mike Speedy is just struggling on this map, it seems as though despite China's best effort, it's not able to make up for their lack of score. And Creep Bancho missed, but it seems as though Sourflower's miss was real. And Mexico now will be securing their first point on the board. Better late than ever.
Yeah, Mexico, it did look very, very close there for a second, but Mexico from given the breaks on China and just their general comfort, Mike struggling a lot. I think probably China finding that fourth player syndrome on a map like this, Mexico just being able to secure this out by 250k and a very, very comfortable point on the board here for Mexico.
Yep, that's right. Mike having a forced to fill sort of situation coming in from China. 07s, honestly. Gotta respect the fill player, but Team Mexico, William, look, it's Team Mexico having Jose and Heidi SA with the carries. Meanwhile, China, with the exception of maybe Mike, who was probably forced to fill on this map, China has very consistent scores across the board. And we're seeing that trend repeat itself time and time again. The carry performances from Team Mexico is what's making the difference for them. But we are going to move into the last pick before the second ban phase, and it is going to be in the hands of Team China. What do you think they're going to go for, William?
Honestly, still a little bit hard to say. Like, there's still so much left in the pool. I mean, China did win that free mod 1 very, very comfortably, but there aren't really any sort of hard rock left in the pool. So what I'm thinking of is maybe something like a free mod, right? I think China, has the, consistency across the board, as we've mentioned, and I think the free mods are a perfect way to abuse that sort of consistency, right? You really need 4 comfortable players on those mods to be able to do well on these free mods. And I think for a team like China, especially against a team like Mexico, who we've seen has struggled a bit with, relying on those carries, I think free mod might be a very, very strong pick for here for China.
Yeah, but we see a free mod 1 pick coming up. And yeah, no, I'm thinking a bit about this pick. I could see it working. I think I look at the Hard Rock 1 victory, they had such a dominant spree on the Hard Rock 1. So this free mod 1, while they probably won't be able to sort of mod abuse as hard as they did on Hard Rock 1, again, they're playing in that same genre of aim mechanics that, I mean, we've already seen 2 times thus far this matchup. And so sticking to what they are sort of comfortable with and sort of using that blade while it's still hot, China really wants to sort of keep the momentum in their favor with this free mod 1 pick, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And China, across the previous rounds, have been shown to be very solid on the free mods regardless.
Absolutely, yeah. With a roster like this well-rounded, you would expect them to do very well. The one thing I am a little bit concerned about for the sake of China is this free mod 1 has a pretty significant reading element to it, especially on the hidden mod, right? You have those circles that are perfect stacks, and if you are not focused enough, they can definitely trip you up. And we've already seen how, Mexico is slightly favored on the gimmick just because of, China having that sort of 4th player syndrome on the gimmick map. I do think maybe we might see maybe even 2 hard rocks come out from China just if they aren't feeling as confident on the gimmick, but we'll just have to see, I guess.
Yeah, I like to say that, I think of the 2 teams, Mexico has been shown in the past to avoid free mod. Of course, last round it was the free mod 2. This round is the free mod 1, so very different skill set. But if you look at what Team Mexico really doesn't like going into, they don't really like going into stuff like No Mod 1, Hard Rock 2, and so it's once again the mod that's really gonna the Hard Rock mod that's really gonna be a boon towards Team Mexico. If you look at their team scores on all of their Hard Rock scores on Hard Rock 1, it seems as though they're really gonna struggle to find that Hard Rock player coming into this map. Meanwhile, on the hidden side, Mexico as well is not the most well-known, but I mean, Mexico's hidden is far stronger than their Hard Rock. When it comes to the Hard Rock, I definitely am expecting to see SZQS coming in, but perhaps we'll see someone else in. But man, it's gonna be tough for Mexico on this battle. We'll have to see how it goes.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, we just have to hope Mexico can take back this breakpoint and even out to 2-2 before the second ban phase so they can get the momentum going. But as it stands, I mean, this is China's pick. This is China's pick to win, and we'll have to see as we get into this custom map by Withard, our favorite liquid in.
That's right. Yeah, already we're seeing Zoakage finding some early misses on the Hard Rock, and while it's not too important, it speaks volumes about the comfort when it comes to the Hard Rock, and it's really looking like they're gonna struggle for the rest of this map on the Hard Rock. Hopefully they can find their footing, a little later on in the map. Meanwhile, we're seeing two-way Hard Rocks from Creep and Schweier, and as well as a hidden coming in from a Weston, with Mike and Rescue being the normal anchors for both their rosters.
Yeah, two-way Hard Rock coming in for China, as I mentioned earlier, actually. Very interesting choice here. I think, they are gonna just want to get rid of all that reading element that you get with this hidden, and it seems to be working out pretty well for them. They're still holding the 4-way FC against just some bricks from Zoe Akade, who really seems to be struggling a lot on that Hard Rock. But the teammates are still holding strong, and the score lead is very, very close right now, so we'll have to see what happens as we get to this next section of the map.
Yeah, that's right. As it stands right now, I mean, that miss from Creep is gonna even the playing field just right now. And in fact, the scoreline is incredibly competitive between both of these rosters as we move into the slower, more calmer section of the map. Moving into the second half, here's where we should be able to see some more weird, awkward aim. A Weston gonna find the miss on the hidden, and that discomfort, that uncertainty that comes with the hidden has just come to claim a Weston. And as it stands right now, the normal anchor as well as the Hard Rock in Schweier is gonna be the one to make the difference. But Mike finds that miss, and that is gonna be devastating as now Team Mexico with their 3 FCs has full control of the scoreboard.
Mike finding that break on the no-mod anchor is absolutely devastating, and it's just Schreier just defend off the 3-way FC coming out from Mexico now, and that scoring is only going to get bigger as we get into this last third of the map. Everyone hits this reading section, and it finds a break, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. We're going to really have to see a break from either Raspberry or Jish if China wants any chance of taking this back. I mean, Schreier can only do so much, right? Those accuracies on Raspberry and Jish are just so amazing. Jish finds that break, actually, that is very big, and China is actually going to start bringing this back given the recovery combo from Creep and Hourathon, but I don't know if they have enough map left to take us one back.
I don't think I would have ever seen the Hard Rock players in a 6-digit tournament making the difference for them. But Creep and Schweier are racing towards this last quarter of the map. Are we gonna see a repeat of what we saw in the number 1? I think we are. Respite, try as he may, it's not gonna be enough as China off the backs of Creep and Schweier are looking to run the extra mile, looking to make the difference. And at the very end of the map, the Fremont 1 pick in their favor. Wow.
I think that was a lot closer than China were hoping for their second pick, but Share managing to hold that FC matched by Raspit, but just the consistency across the board, as we've been saying time and time again. Zoe Akage, unfortunately, just struggling on that Hard Rock mod, and even though Jish and Haide did hold those FCs longer through into the map, just unfortunately the scores from China are just so consistent, and they just managed to clutch that one out in the very end there, just by 72k there.
Yeah, phenomenal performance from Team China, and once again, Wilwen, it shows the consistency from Team China across the board is what's really benefiting them this entire matchup. We saw in Team Mexico, they had 3 big combos, but they just struggled to fill that 4th player at the end of the day. Zoe Akage was not really feeling it with the Hard Rock, and we are probably going to see a repeat of that in the Fremont 2 and 3. Hence, leading me to believe that, perhaps we'll see a Fremont ban coming from Team Mexico during the second ban phase.
Absolutely, I think, given that Fremont 1 was very, very close, I think they could afford to leave the Fremont open, but, then again, right, those Fremonts are very devastating. The Fremont 1 is quite comfortable for most players, all things considered. I think the Fremont 2 and the Fremont 3 mean they will suffer a lot more on the Hard Rock player if they choose not to go for it. But actually, they ban out, I believe that's a hidden 2. Interesting ban here actually coming out from Mexico. They didn't do very, very well on that No Mod 6 game, so to see them ban out this hidden, especially when both Fremonts are still open, seems very weird to me actually. China, I imagine, would have struggled to find a confident roster for this hidden too, then like would allow Mexico's carries. I think this Hidden 2 is very much a carry map, so pretty weird ban, in my opinion at least.
At the same time, I look at the Mexican roster and I see a lot of avenues where China can exploit them. And interestingly enough, we see the Fremont 3 ban coming in from China. I was not expecting that. Especially given how they went for the No More 3 Protect, right? They won that Fremont 1. You're probably confident on all your mods. You are confident on the control. So this Fremont 3 ban seems like a bit of an enigma to me. But yeah, going back to the Hidden 2 ban by Mexico, I think Mexico has a lot of bans here. There's a lot of things that they probably don't want to play with. I'm looking at the Fremont 2 as well, before the Fremont 3, before China took it out. And it seems as though the Hidden 2 was just one of their options that they could have gone for. Once again, I don't know just how strong Mexico is on the Hidden, on the low AR Hidden, so perhaps they just wanted to avoid any sort of ambiguity. But cannot help but feel as though that Fremont 3 ban was a bit questionable from Team China.
Very interesting map. I mean, I do think Mexico did protect that number 3, right? So maybe China just aren't feeling as good on the control compared to Mexico. But I don't know. I mean, I think China are still very, very favored on those free mods. I mean, we've said time and time again, Mexico is probably going to struggle to find a hardware player, especially on such a map like Fremont 3. And we're getting into the stage of the tournament where, like, players are going to struggle. Like, we've said that Mexico is a very top-heavy roster, right? They rely on those carries to be able to set good scores, but when your lower players aren't able to play the maps in the first place, that's where you're gonna have issues. So I don't really know. Just have to see how this one plays out. And Mexico is going into their next pick right here, and I mean, I'm expecting probably something, as we've mentioned, one of those speed picks, right? Nomad 5 is still open, DT2 is still open, DT3 is still open, and given how dominant they were on the Nomad 6, I think maybe DT3 is a lot nicer a pick than I was initially imagining. So I think they still have a good amount of picks to go for, but they really need to have confidence, right? They are still one break down going into the stage of the match, and they do go for this Nomad 5 pick.
Okay. Mexico throughout this match has been seen it seems as though they really want to play into the no mod. They don't want to sort of dance around any of the DTs just yet. And we're gonna see just that with this no mod 5. This no mod 5 is I didn't know that 6 digit, like, this could be a 5.6 star map. I didn't think that this kind of map could be bad for this SR. But it is probably the first real speed test that that you'll be seeing in this 6WC. This map features a lot of very long bursts coming in at 220 BPM, so it's really gonna be putting your speed and your speed stamina to the test.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, like, compared especially to last week's Nomad 5, I think last week's Nomad 5 had a lot of, like, gaps in between the bursts to allow you for, like, that breathing room, right? Meanwhile, like, this map kind of just throws bursts at you non-stop, right? And especially with the BPM increase from 210 to 220, this map is really, really going to test your speed at this BPM. And I think it's just going to be about which team has the roster for it. I think we have seen some very, very solid scores on this map from a lot of teams in this stage, right? Canada and Taiwan both almost setting 4A FCs. So, I don't know. I don't think these two teams are going to be as comfortable, especially I'm looking at China, right? They banned out the Nomad 2, which is a very, very stamina heavy map, and I think this map also tests your stamina quite well. So I think China may struggle a little bit on this. I'm looking at Mexico to hopefully perform on this, but we will just have to see.
That is right. I think this is as good of a pick as Team Mexico can go for. We've seen them, throughout their earlier rounds, really liking these sort of more mechanics-heavy picks, and it makes a lot of sense why they would be going in for it once again for Team Mexico. And yeah, no, I don't think there's much else to say about this pick. I definitely would have thought that this would be China's ban. At the end of the day, I think this Nomad 5 pick probably should have come a bit earlier, in fact. But I mean, better late than never. They have their chance to go Nomad 5, so welcome to Endymion, This is a custom map by Vertical Dude in CPT4, so we used it for this 6WC, and I mean, this is a speed map to behold at this SR.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that you can map this at this SR is honestly crazy, as you mentioned that. This map really does not let up fall. You see immediately the absolute density of burst that this map throws at you, and Creep, Sourflower, Alathon on China all finding breaks here. Meanwhile, Mexico still holding that 4-right strong, and we're not even like into very far of this map. SP's finds that break, but it's still the FC and Shuarei, the last FC for China, finds that break, and I think Mexico are really just gonna run away with it. Like, their 300k score lead
Okay,
just
bro.
got
Okay,
into the
bro.
map.
Okay,
Like,
bro.
what do you
Okay, bro.
do?
Okay, Mexico showing why they are the boss when it comes to the mechanics, and China is unable to hold a key to what Mexico has. I think what we mentioned about Mexico having carries, having very pronounced carries, is just completely thrown out of the window. The one exception to this clause is on speed. Mexico is arguably one of the best tournaments one of the best teams when it comes to their consistency on tackling mechanics, and they are just unfaltering. I mean, SBQS might continue to find misses, but it doesn't matter. The accuracy from especially Respiate on this map is just completely insurmountable for China.
I mean, this is just an absolute bloodbath. Like, Mexico
Yeah.
are doubling their score, and I think they might almost triple going to this last section of that. They're still holding that 3-way FC
Bro,
strong, and
what are
China
we
really
doing?
just don't have anything to contest against this. I mean, oh my goodness, like, what an
Are you
absolute
kidding?
dominant pick coming up from Mexico. Exactly what they needed at this stage.
Oh,
Closing it out
oh.
with just doubling their
That-
score. I mean,
That's not a masterclass, bro. That is a slaughter coming in from Mexico, and this is their element. This is why they are the strongest team, probably of the tournament, when it comes to the soul speed intensive picks. And that's why I said, well, why didn't they go for this earlier? Why didn't China ban this in the second ban phase? I mean, it seems as clear as day that this would be the optimal this would be the optimal way to go. So like,
I mean, yeah, like, look at that fucking accuracy from Raspberry at 99.77 on a map like this is absolutely incredible. Like, there is so much that can, like, catch you out, and, like, no one else in the lobby is even close to 98%. So, honestly, incredible performance here from Mexico. An absolutely stellar pick. And we'll have to see how this plays out. China now going with their next pick. Really need to-
PT1,
Mexico
PT1.
in their tracks.
Rage bait aside, probably a hidden one. If they want to stay in sort of that genre of aim, I don't think they go for their protect necessarily this early on. They have quite a lot of leeway before they have to let that go. So maybe a hidden one. I think that's the most likely, but I don't know, man. Maybe it will be the first DT1 that we'll be seeing in 2 rounds.
I mean, there's a hidden one. The hidden one has the aim element, but it also has the
Oh, that's
tapping
true, that's
element.
true, that's
So I wonder if, you know, China is going to struggle on that.
Oh.
bit. China actually going with their protect now with the Hard Rock 2, and you know, I think this is a pretty good stage to pump out your protect. You know, you're one breakpoint up and you want to get as many points across the board as possible, so you build up that momentum going into the later stages of this map. But I mean, this Hard Rock 2, you know, very, very short map, very, very RNG map, and also very, very high BPM map. So even though Mexico is gonna definitely struggle on the Hard Rock element, China, you know, could very well struggle on this map. And if Mexico manage to get their carries in order, manage to, you know, hold where China doesn't, and China finds those breaks, you know, China's score is going to plummet very, very quickly. But, you know, on a map like this, so short, anything.
I'm looking at what we saw from the Hard Rock 1 from Team Mexico, and even if, you know, this map is very volatile, this map can be decided by a coin flip, yada yada yada, I don't see a world where you know, China can fall that far from their display of dominance in Hard Rock 1, and Mexico can, you know, overperform and shock me a bit on this Hard Rock 2. I don't see a world where that is a possibility. I think any Hard Rock pick for Team China is just that dominant for them. even so, we saw the Hard Rock really being a deciding factor on the Fremont one, and I think the fact that they were struggling to find a player or a Hard Rock specialist on that Fremont one speaks volumes about their strength as a roster on Hard Rock in general. So I think this is as clear as a China favorite pick as we can get during this match.
Mhm. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have the hard rock element, and I think this is a map where you really, really want that consistency in scores that China has been putting out throughout this match, right? Like, there is really no room for carries to be able to perform super well, because even if you have carries, your low scores are just going to tank your team score too much. And I think at the end of the day, consistent scores is what's going to win this map. And China is the team that has that in this matchup. So I think, as you mentioned, China should be very favored. And I mean, it is their protect after all, so they definitely have some sort of strong confidence going into this map.
That is right, but with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump straight into Snow Goose, the shortest map that we've had this pool. But once again, Hard Rock has been playing out so well for Team China this match, and of course, this being their protect, it is expected that they are the favorites to win. But let's jump straight into this speed precision Hard Rock 2.
I mean, yeah, as we jump in this hard XP, you already see Mexico struggling a lot there.
Bro.
Just like the opposite of that No Mod 5, finding 3 bricks already. It is just Heidi to close out the FC, matched by Sourflower and Mike233 on the side of China. We do see Shari and Creep find the breaks, but if you have this many players uncomfortable on the map on the side of Mexico, like, you're really not going to do much if you're only one person. And just keep seeing the breaks there from Mexico. Raspberry finding the break, and Jiesh as well to follow it up. China is just gonna run away with this almost 200k score lead, I think.
Yeah, that is right, bro. And we're currently, already halfway through the map. Mike and Shuai might find the miss. Is gonna give some leg room for Heidi Este, but Heidi Este finds that miss, and so Akage is the only one left in the lobby. Sourflower does find a miss, but wait, pause that. Is still competitive. 120k scoreline in favor of China is decreasing rapidly. There is a third of the map left, and Zoakage and Respian are making the difference slowly but surely, trickling and eating away at the score lead. But Zoakage finds that miss, and with that, I don't think that's gonna be enough map for Team Mexico to sustain that comeback. And China, albeit a bit precariously, will be winning another pick and will be winning their protect.
Yes, just by the skin of their teeth almost. Kage unfortunately finding that break at the very end there, but Shrare with the recovery combo just about enough to clutch the score lead. And very, very solid combo there from Raspi at the very end as well, but not enough to claw back the very, very close score lead. I think, a lot closer than China would have hoped on a map that is their protect, right? Very, very precarious, but they managed to secure that point nonetheless. And very, very good performance there across the board from China, as we've seen across this match.
Yeah, it's a pretty melancholic vibe in the VC right now because Mexico really is at the constant back foot during this match. China is now looking to continuously maintain the momentum in their favor. They are not giving up this 2-point lead right now, and it's now Mexico's pick. But any room, there is absolutely no room for error for Team Mexico at this juncture of the map, because any point they drop is another point in favor of Team China. And with that said, I don't know if Team Mexico necessarily wants to go for the No Mod 3 here, because even though it is their protect, China did lose their protect. They did drop it very early. Mexico, I don't know if they have enough points on the board that they necessarily want to lose that security of No Mod 3 just yet. At the same time, Mexico still has the DT2. They still have the DT3. They still have, all of these mechanics picks in the chamber, and Mexico is in fact going to go for the DT2. Where were these picks earlier on?
I mean, I think to no one's surprise, Mexico is going straight for that DT2. I mean, you saw the absolute dominance that Mexico had on that Nomad fight and how much China was struggling on a match like this. Granted, like, this map isn't as much of a stamina test compared to that Nomad 5, but you know, China was still struggling so bad, and Mexico was just so incredibly dominant on that Nomad 5. Like, I think this just is a no-brainer pick at all.
That's right. This is a certified hook classic. I think was used a lot in the earlier tourney scene, but this map is sort of it's a very silly map. I mean, at the end of the day, GT speed at this SR, wow, forehead. This map features a lot of speedy bursts here and there, but at the end of the day, the speed players will hate this map, the aim players will love how mashable and feasible this map is. But I think what's going to be very pronounced in this map is the comfort coming in from Team Mexico. I think through time and time again, they've proven to us that when it comes to the accuracy, they are completely unmatched. And especially coming out of that Nomad 5, that incredibly dominant Nomad 5 victory, they are probably feeling very confident about this map. Meanwhile, on the side of Team China, they don't quite have that confidence when it comes to the speed. And even though this map is very feasible, to what extent can they even cheat this kind of map? And how much accuracy will they be sacrificing in exchange for the cheese, in exchange for the match on this GT2?
Yeah, I mean, this map is more accessible, as you kind of mentioned. It's like your standard hard diff, although like the BPM is way up there at 270 BPM, very high compared to especially like last week's 255 BPM. But you know, it is very mashable, as you mentioned. The bursts are very straightforward. They're just 5-note bursts at the most, and you know, I think China could potentially have some wiggle room to work with. It is definitely not going to be as dominant as a victory from Mexico, I would think, on a map like this, but I think we'll just have to see. I mean, Mexico, you know, no slouch at all when it comes to this DT tapping. Like, their performance on qualifiers DT2 was absolutely incredible, so I expect them to, like, perform very well on a map like this.
That's right, Will. And with that said, let's jump into Peko Miko Daisen. So it's gonna take a while, I think, before we start to see the real speed cap sections kick in. But as it stands right now, the consistency required on CT and maintaining your accuracy during the less speedy sections is gonna be incredibly important. Let's jump straight into it.
Yeah, and immediately, I think, you know, Awathon and Raspia and Jish all finding breaks, actually not really what you want to see.
Oh, okay.
SAQ finding the break there. It is just Heidi against 3 FCs from the side of China, the opposite of what we saw on the Nomad 5. But I think, you know, the accuracy is going to allow Mexico to barely maintain that score lead for now. I mean, it's gonna start shifting towards China's side very quickly just because of that combo, but we'll have to see as we get into this first burst of the map.
Yeah, that's right. We move in. This is a relatively long map for the CT slot, coming in at 3 minutes long. So there is some time for China to make this comeback. But SDQS once again finds another miss. But Creep does trade it up, however. And once again, Wilwan, the accuracy safety net that Mexico is demonstrating across their entire roster is coming in a huge clutch for them right now. Sourflower finds that miss, and with that, Mexico now has the combo and accuracy lead, and is looking to take the scoreline more and more towards the left side.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Raspia and Jish did find those breaks very early on, but they seem to have made a very solid recovery. And with the FC on Heidi, like, it's easily contesting these 2 FCs from the side of China here, and that score lead is really only going to get bigger unless we see a break from one of these high combos on the side of Mexico. And we're only about a third of the map left to go, and it's gonna need to come soon if China wants to take this back.
Yeah, that's right. A bunch of misses, however, coming in from China. Shuaiyue, Awathon, and Sourflower, all 5 misses. IDSA and SDQS do soften the blow, but Raspia and Jish are unrelenting, going out of the interlude section. And I mean, they are in the clear right now. I don't think there's much that China can do moving forward. I think Jish and Raspia, that damage that they've dealt to the scoreline is more than enough. IDSA as well, with an incredible support all the way until that intermission section.
yeah, just absolutely incredible combos here from the side of Mexico. Like the No Mod 5, just absolutely dominating on this tapping map. Score lead is almost at 800k now, and there's really nothing China can do at all. Dish finds a break at the very end with the shake, but the deal is done, the damage has been done, and it is Raspberry to close it out here on this DT2. I mean, an absolutely incredible performance from Mexico here to take it up to 4-3.
Oh man, once again, another dominant point on the speed for Team Mexico. And well, I think now is a good time to mention how interesting this dynamic between both teams are. I mean, these two teams, might skill-wise be as close as what we saw from Indonesia and the USA. But what we are not seeing is the diversity that Indonesia and the US presented in their matchup. In conversely, Mexico and China, they're very strong, but they're only strong at their own skill set. That's why a lot of the score leads that we've been seeing in this matchup have been incredibly one-sided. They are not competitive at all because of how well Mexico and China complement each other's weaknesses. Whatever China is weak on, Mexico abuses to the extreme. And whatever Mexico is weak on, say the hard rock, China just completely takes full advantage of it. And so it's very interesting to see this back and forth dynamic coming in from both of these countries. But as it stands right now, unless Mexico can somehow manage to squeeze a breakpoint in from China to make up for the breakpoint that they lost before, I mean, this back and forth is just gonna favor Team China.
The thing is, right now that we're in the later stages of the map, the strong picks that each team are abusable on, where we're gonna see those one-sided score leads, are really running thin right now. You really only have the No Mod 4, Hidden 1, Hidden 3, DT1, and the Free Mod 2, and the DT2 actually, sorry. And I think Mexico, I think even though China is still one breakpoint up, I think we've not mentioned that these score leads that China is winning by are very, very close, right? We saw the Free Mod 1 was won by a very, very narrow margin. The No Mod 1 was won by a very, very narrow margin. And I think, if China, aren't on their super strong skill sets, Mexico could easily take a breakpoint right back.
Oh, but instead we see a GT3 coming in from China. Okay. I'm a bit apprehensive about this one, bro.
I think I am very questioning this one as well, right? It's DT, which Mexico has shown to be very, very dominant on. Mind you, it is a very, very different type of DT, but it plays kind of similar to the No Mod 6, right? It has finger control doubles, and it is very, very accessible in the combo department, but not very much in the accuracy department. And I think if China doesn't have a fourth like the No Mod 6, this could very, very easily go to Mexico's side, right? This is not a very, very tricky map in my opinion, and we've seen some very, very, 7-way, 6-way, 8-way FCs on this map from the higher seeded teams, and I don't doubt that, teams like this could potentially pull that sort of score off.
That's right, well, but we're gonna start to see the players slowly funnel into the lobby, and I'm so apprehensive about this pick from China because Mexico, are you seeing that GT3? Are you seeing that GT3? Like that GT3 in quals, probably one of the hardest maps that 6WC has seen thus far, even in comparison to the semi-finals round. Mexico is a demon when it comes to GT in general, and especially the finger control. So I'm very apprehensive about this pick. I'm kind of worried, in fact.
I mean, even though you say that Mexico is favored on that DT3, right? That DT3 is very much a carry map.
True.
Mexico has those carries who, if they set a good score on the DT3, will boost their seeding by a lot. This map is very, very tame in comparison to DT3. And that is where China's consistency in terms of scores might pay off more. But I do think China is going to generally struggle on this sort of skill set more than Mexico, and I do worry if they're going to struggle with that fourth player syndrome that we've seen them struggle on with the No Mod 6.
Yeah, that said, I would also like the echoing the No Mod 6 once again. Mexico coming out that No Mod 6, that GT2 pick, they not only have the mechanics in their hands, but they also have that control element in their favor as well. So at the same time, this is such a Mexico favorite pick, but perhaps China has something in store for us. I mean, we saw sort of a repeat, sort of this, China, this country picking into their unfamiliar picks in Taiwan, I believe, versus Russia last round, where Taiwan went for a speed pick, which they've shown through and through during the match that they were not the favorites on. But they picked it because they anticipated Russia going for the No More 5 pick, so they wanted to sort of limit Russia's options earlier on before it would matter. So perhaps China going in for this GT3 pick could be justified by them wanting to cut out Mexico's options early enough before the nerves start to matter. But it looks like we are going to see a timeout, and we are gonna take a. Oh yeah, I think we are just gonna take a quick break. I think these players slowly funneling into the lobby. It's just gonna be a short 2 minutes, hopefully. But yeah.
Yeah, as we get into this timeout right here, I think might be nice to mention, what might come after this DT3 pick, right? Like, Mexico still have quite a bit to play around with. They have their No Mod 3 Protect, which, if they are able to win this DT3 breakpoint, they could easily take this match back to match point. But as it stands, we're going to be getting into this DT3 now. The timeout was pretty quick, actually. So yeah.
I'm very excited to see if Taiwan, oh my goodness, if China has something to present to us with this GT3. This GT3 all about the doubles. It is sort of a faster version of what we saw of No Mod 6, albeit with a lot less rhythmic diversity. But the swing is going to be very, very difficult, guys, especially once we get to the KIs. For that, welcome to Double Time 3.
And it does look like China is taking the pretty early score lead based on the accuracy. You see Jose down there at 83%, clearly not finding a good time to stop, but Sourflower is the first one to break on the side of China, but matched by Haiti, unfortunately, and that's going to keep the score lead in favor of China right now. Still very, very early days. Any sort of break easily flip the score lead.
Interestingly enough, we're not seeing the accuracy safety net coming in from Mexico. In fact, we're seeing it coming from China. Shuai Yue right now leading the lobby with that 98% act. And that's really playing in favor of them despite the misses that made from Jish as well. And that is going to be more and more rough as China pull ahead. I mean, we were talking about how Team Mexico was so strong on the No Mod 6, so strong on the mechanics. But, I mean, China is making us eat our words right now. Because they are dominant in this matchup. 300k and counting. Complete misses from Jish and Jose. And it's looking more and more rough as we move to the last turn. In fact, I don't think there's enough time. China! Wow, what a performance. I was not familiar with your game.
Yeah, maybe it was just the reading element in No Mod 6 that kind of tripped them up a bit. But now on the higher AR with the DT, it is absolutely their game right now. And they are just giving us an absolute performance on this DT3. I mean, look at that score lead, almost 800k right now and to the end of the map. And that is China going to bring us up to match point now, 5-3.
Oh, it's because Jack Goo is in for this map. And not Mike. Last time we saw No Mod 6, perhaps Jack Goo was just unavailable for the No Mod 6. So you're supposed to fill. But this time Jack Goo is in the lobby. And look at how much of a difference that makes.
That is
But yeah.
very, very scary now, actually, for Mexico. China up at match point. They do obviously have their protect, which I imagine they're going to pick next as their final pick, but they still have to win one more breakpoint off China to send this match to a potential tiebreaker. And we'll just have to see what happens. I think, really no other pick here except for No Mod 3.
Yeah, and I'm really worried here as well because China has the free mod 2 that they could go for. Continuing to play in the hard rock, into Mexico's hard rock weakness, they definitely need to win that point, I think. And now China has a pretty clear path to victory moving forward. Right after that, No Mod 3, it doesn't really matter what Mexico does because they can go for, that free mod to immediately shut down Mexico then and there. Mexico really needs to pull something together. They want to secure a victory on free mod 2, especially considering they banned out Hidden 2 and they've shown, time and time again that they are not willing to go into hard rocks against China.
Yeah, but we're just kind of waiting for Mexico's next pick here, and I think, we're just waiting for that No Mod 3, really. I don't think there's really anything else left in this pool that, there you go. It's their protect after all. Like, why would you not pick your protect when it is your last pick of the match? So, just waiting here, and yes, that No Mod 3 does come out there from Heidi. Ooh.
Yep, there's No Mod 3, Gamili Spotlight, reference to EQX's Gamili stock, if I'm not mistaken. This is a custom map by Q. Lovely. One of 6WC's favorite mappers. I think he's a fan favorite and has risen to a lot of popularity with his No Mod 4 custom in qualifiers, as well as now his No Mod 3 custom in semi-finals. This map is sort of a counterbalance to the Snap Alt Heavy Hard Rock 3. This map features a lot more flowiness and, it's a lot less mixed or a lot less diversified than what we saw from last week's No Mod 3, which had, a good element of both. This map is a lot more focused in its flow op. That said, I think this is one of the more accessible maps in the pool overall. It might just be my alt bias, but I don't see this map being especially difficult. But maybe the consistency might put some of these players up.
I'm not too sure about, honestly. The thing about this map is that you really need to hold through those tricky cut patterns in order to get any sort of score with this map, right? Like, even if you hold through, half the map, like, your score is not going to be super crazy, and I think that's what trips a lot of people up, holding through the tricky cut sections in the KIs. Even though I think a lot of the map is very accessible, as you mentioned, it's really about who holds the combos during those KIs, and I think this is where Mexico's hop-off performance can potentially shine here. But, I think China could very well, if they have the consistent scores, consistent very, very good scores as they've been putting out this match, could very, very easily take this back if Mexico aren't able to perform on those carries.
That's right, we're gonna see the players slowly funnel into the lobby. Just like we're gonna see Awaton, Jag, Creep, Shuaiyue in for the Chinese roster. Heidi SF, SZQS, and Raskit. Alongside probably Jish. I could either see Jish or Jose coming in for this No Mod 3 from the side of Team Mexico. I think from this point on, it is do or die. It is a fight for survival for Team Mexico, and because every point from here on out is just game over in favor of Team China. So Mexico really need to lock in. They need to focus up. Good luck, have fun are coming in chat. And I think even though this is the safe pick for Team Mexico, they still have one more pick that they need to survive through in order for them to get to that fabled tiebreaker. But with that, let's jump straight into reveal. Custom map by Q.
Yeah, this is an absolutely banger of a custom map. Really fun to play, but no slouch when it comes to difficulty at all. I think these early sections are quite straightforward for the most part, very, very accessible as you mentioned, but I think it's really going to be who holds through those tricky cut patterns in those KIs that's really going to see who wins this map. But yeah, as we get into it, very, very, just very, very balanced across both teams. Mexico taking slight early accuracy lead thanks to very, very solid accuracy on Haide, but very, very early game here. We're just going to see who breaks first.
That's right, first KI coming in, and as it stands right now, everybody is equal. just that slight accuracy there, as you mentioned, Wilhelm. But that miss from SDQS and the SA is gonna be devastating for the Mexican score. Creep does find a miss, and that is gonna soften the blow. But it is now 2 FCs to 3 in favor of Team China. And even though that scoreline is flickering, it's gonna shift in favor of Team China as we move into the next slow section of the map.
Yeah, now with the first KI almost done and China holding 3 full combos out of it, this section is kind of your free combo section, and China is just going to build that score lead, hopefully. Mexico still have those 2 FCs obviously, but I think a break on Heidi is really not what you want to see, right? That's one of your carry players, and you really hope that they can hold through the first KI, so that is not what you want to see on side of Mexico. But scoreline is still very, very thin right now. In fact, like, it's flickering back and forth. I think just because of the accuracy on Raspberry. That is an incredible accuracy as we get into this next KI right here. And we just have to see if we get
That is a miss from Schreier and another miss from Heidi SA and SDQS. But for what it's worth, the playing field has even. In fact, it is now in favor of Team Mexico off the back of that miss from Schreier. And, you know, Heidi SA might continue to find misses. SDQS might continue to find misses. But as it stands right now, Mexico, off the back of Respiet and Jish, are holding back the floodgates. China trying their best as they can, and I mean, they might succeed. There is still a third of the map left. It is still so incredibly close. That miss from Creep is gonna soften the blow just that little bit, but it's Jagu and Awathon versus Rastia and Jish till the very end.
And they see the scores. The scoreline is only 30k, and there are still 4 FCs, 2 on each side holding. And I really think it's just going to be who finds that break first, and it's Awathon, but it's treated immediately after by Jish on the side of Mexico. That is 1 FC to 1, Raspia versus Jaku right now, and it is still so close, just 50k in right now as we get into this last section of the map. I mean, there's still breaks on all other players. Sure, I might have the supporting combo to bring this back for Team China, but
oh my god, it's enough, it might be enough 2k, and it shifts over off the back of those misses from Heidi SC and SDQS, but that miss from Jagu at the very end.
Oh my goodness gracious.
The skin of his teeth just narrowly steals that point back for Team Mexico. Talk about a
holy
holy. Oh my days.
At the end from Jagu, just unfortunately giving Mexico the narrow lead that they needed. I mean, that's really not what you want to see on Mexico's Protect, but they managed to close out the win on that. No more 3 either way. An absolutely stellar FC there from Raspia. Very solid accuracy, you know, almost unmatched. Only Awathon really coming anywhere close. And
that's right. I mean, Mexico looks at Team China and says, not yet. They are still in the game. But here, oh my god, Wilhelm, I hate this. I hate this position. It's always this. It's always the 4-5 scoreline. It's always the 4-5 scoreline. It is do or die now. And Mexico just used up their safe pick. Now they have to play on China's terms. And oh my goodness, I'm just looking at that free mod 2 in fear. It's like seeing Taiwan versus Russia and seeing that no mod 6 available. Oh man. Oh man.
Their fate is in China's hands, and yeah, as you mentioned, kind of this was what we saw last time with Taiwan and Russia. You know, Taiwan managing to bring it up to 4-5, but their last pick was at the fit of Russia picking that no mod 6 to seal deal. And I think, you know, free mod 2 as you mentioned, but I think any one of these picks could be very good for Mexico, right? I think maybe not the no mod 4 is what I'm thinking, or maybe the hidden 3, but like China still have that free mod 2 at their disposal. And given how strong China have been on those free mod maps, and given how weak Mexico has been on that hard rock to find players for the free mod in general, I think, yeah, as you mentioned, the free mod 2 I think might be a no-brainer here as this last China pick.
Yeah, but China has been surprising us left, right, and center. I was not expecting that DT3 pick, so perhaps they'll come up with something that I don't expect as well. For what it's up, oh, never mind. Actually, we, for the first time, predict the map correctly. It's gonna be VMod 2 coming in from China. And I don't feel good about this, Wilhelm. I don't feel good about this.
I mean, yeah, this 3-mod too. I mean, we've seen China time and time again dominate on these 3-mods. Mind you, that 3-mod 1 was very, very close as a scoreline, and you know, I think China may end up running 2 hard rocks on this like they did with the 3-mod 1, but I don't think the reading element is as pronounced in this 3-mod 2 as the 3-mod 1, honestly. It's mainly just about that precision element, and I think China will probably end up taking you know, the standard 2 hiddens on a hard rock lineup here. And yeah, I mean, I'm very, very fearful for Mexico here. Like, they really need to hope that their hard rock player can get some good footing, because when you're up a team like China who just has the players to fill all those mod slots, it's just very, very scary for them.
Yeah, I'm seeing a repeat of that No Mod 6 where China has such a clear path towards victory that honestly it looks like it's doomed from this point on. I mean, 3-mod 2 is a CS5 map, and if Mexico already doesn't want to dance around the hard rock, you know, the smaller CS of hard rock, they don't want to play on the low AR of Hidden 2, they especially don't want to play on that precision. What does Mexico even have going into this pick? I mean, I don't doubt that they have hidden players, but the fact that they decide to go for the Hidden 2 ban suggests that their hidden reading roster probably isn't strong enough to contest with that of China. And for that reason, I mean, it looks as clear as day that this is a China favored pick in all essence. So, I mean, there's nothing much that they can really do.
Yeah, we'll just have to hope and see. I mean, anything can
Miracle,
really happen.
miracle.
Miracles may happen, but I mean, if China is just dominant on these females, like what can Mexico do really? They just have to hope that China finds those breaks and their carries on the side of Mexico can set those SCs, but it's really just all down to the fate of China here.
Yeah, very rightfully said. Hopefully we should be seeing them off to the races very soon. Hopefully you can switch over to the roster, perhaps see what is happening on the ground.
I'm just very, very scared here. I mean,
Are
Mexico
they
took
calling a
very-
timeout?
Oh,
Oh, are they calling a timeout? It
Oh,
looks
I
like
believe
they
so.
are. Alright, timeout. I mean, we saw this time. Oh my god, it's literally Taiwan versus Russia, OM. It's literally Taiwan versus Russia. I see it.
Yeah.
I've played these games before. Too many times, in fact. Oh man.
I mean, we just have to hope that Mexico can maybe like replicate what they did on the 3-mod 1, right? That scoreline was very, very narrow there, and you know, it was because China took those 2 hard rocks and wasn't able to get a lot of score because of the reduced accuracy, and meanwhile, you know, setting very, very good carry scores. But I don't know about this 3-mod 2. I don't know if China is going to opt for that 2 hard rock, and I think even then, it's just gonna be very, very hard for Mexico to take this point.
Yeah, Mexico here needs a miracle run in order for them to somehow claw their way back from Team China. I mean, if you are a neutral viewer, you are just hoping for the show. And I too am so hoping that we'll be able to see a repeat of what we just saw at 4UTC. But of course, it is easier said than done. That is a hope, that is a prayer. And we'll have to see how it goes. At least, you know, if it ends here, it'll be on a banger. I love LAD Devotee. This map has a surprisingly large amount of reading, I would say. It has a lot more conventional reading. A lot of the reading that you saw from our earlier rounds is a lot more familiar with what we have in this remote 2. Of course, it's another Jackie map, so you already know what the map is about. But overall, you know, it's the precision check for hard rock players, it's the reading check for hidden players. So it is a box standard free mod 2 and relatively balanced, I'd say, between the 2 mods. All things considered.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, you know, it really isn't too bad. I think on the hidden and the hard rock, you know, you have your position, but I think in general, it's going to be pretty comfortable for both worlds, provided you have the players to be able to fill that. And I just don't know if Mexico has that. I mean, we see Zoe Kage again for the side of Mexico, probably gonna have to tank that hard rock. And against this China roster, I'm just very, very fearful of them, but we'll have to see. We'll have to
You know,
see.
maybe maybe Mexico on this remote too. Maybe they have a maybe they have a hidden roster, and maybe that will be the difference maker for them. You know, we never know. But and for what it's worth, I mean, China has banned out, if I'm not wrong, Hidden 2 in both round of 16 and quarterfinals. So at the same time, perhaps they're running double hard rock on this. Perhaps, they aren't the most perhaps they aren't the most confident when it comes to the reading, and they go for the more volatile precision. But I mean, on the flip side, you look at Mexico's previous rounds, and they have danced around the Fremont 2 as well. Both of these countries, honestly, not Fremont 2 is really not their favorite thing. But using the context, using what we've seen before during this matchup, it really seems as though Mexico doesn't have enough options. They don't have enough flexibility in order to go for it. But we are gonna see the Good Luck Have Funs coming in chat. It looks like from chat it might be a Hidden versus Haro matchup, and we'll have to see which
Ooh.
side of the coin it lands on.
And yeah, taking 2 hard rocks on this is honestly quite scary. I mean, I think the precision is honestly a lot tougher than like the reading is on the
Really?
hidden
Okay.
on this map, I think. I mean, we have seen people struggle a lot on these Fremont 2s on the past, so maybe I'll be proven right. I mean, it is obviously a challenge to be playing this on the CS8 AR8, but we'll still have to see as we get into this Fremont 2 right now. Potentially the last pick of this match, China's last pick, but let's get into it.
Oh, early misses coming in from Zoakage and Respiate. Not what you want to see, especially from the no more anchor coming in from Respiate. That's going to be very important, but Wathon is going to trade it up. And it seems as though we will be seeing a Hidden versus Hard Rock matchup going into what could be potentially the final matchup of this match. Jish is holding that accuracy safety net with the 99% X. And for what it's worth, it is going to be what's keeping Mexico in the game. But that miss from Jish, not what you want to see as you move into the KI.
I mean, as you mentioned, the accuracy safety net now kind of gone because Jish broke. I mean, China taking the 2 hard rocks is going to put them at a pretty significant accuracy deficit. Like, you see creep down there at 90%, but I don't know, with those combo breaks on the side of China, it's just gonna be a very, very tough battle for Mexico to fight here.
Yeah, it's a lot of pain here. It looks like the carry performance from Team Mexico is just not enough to push them over the line. Heidi SA trying their best with that hidden, but being completely cancelled out by Jackgu. Might continue to find misses, but so does Reskian and Zo Akage. Unable to find their footing on this remote too. China now has 3 large combos on the board moving into the second half of the map, and it's looking more and more dire as China continues to push this scoreline more and more in favor of the right side.
I mean, there is still half the map left, and it looks like the scoreline has stabilized a little bit, but China still has those 3 large combos, as we mentioned, going into this next PI here, and we're really going to need to see a break on one of them if Mexico wants to have any sort of ground in this match at all. The scoreline is increasing now 250k almost, and it's just looking very, very dire for Mexico. Raspberry finding the recovery combo, but Zoya Kage, the hard rock tank, unfortunately just not comfortable on this Fremont 2 at all, and that is just really unfortunate for the side of Mexico.
Yeah, I think we already anticipated this early on. It's just that China is that much more flexible when it comes to their mod slots, that much more flexible when it comes to their skill set diversity. And it's clear to see that, Mexico at the very end were not able to fill out a roster, especially when it comes to the hard rock, and that's really biting them in the back here. Creep and Mike might find a miss, but Jagu as well as Arathon are just unrelenting in their pursuit for this victory. They want to close it out right here, right now, and as we move into the last KI, time is running out as both teams race towards the finish line. But if the score stagnates, it's just going to continue to maintain in China's hands. But those misses from Jagu might start to paint a different story. Last 8 of the map, however, I don't know that's enough. But we're kind of crumbling in terms of their scoreline. I don't know if it's going to be close. It's going to be close, but just finds the misses for Sadieste, and it is over. China will be walking away, denying that tiebreaker from Mexico with a 6-4 lead. Valiant effort, but at the end of the day, it was not enough.
And that is just so unfortunate for the side of Mexico. They totally could have clawed it back there at the very end, but as we've seen, Zoya Kage unfortunately having to tank that hard rock for his team and just very, very unfortunate. China, no FCs across the board even, but just very, very consistent scores as we've seen from them this entire match. And that is just going to be enough to secure them this 3-2 and secure them this match 6-4. I mean, incredible performance from both teams, but China is going to be the one to eke it out.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Mexico's weakness here was that they couldn't drop a single one of their picks. They needed to win every single one of their picks because there was no way that they were winning a breakpoint back from China. And, it showed here the flexibility from Team China on a whole host of maps was what made the difference for Team Mexico. But yeah, at the end of the day, I believe with this, we'll be saying goodbye to Team Mexico. And with that, China will be moving on to the finals round. So congratulations to Team China.
Not yet, I believe. I do believe they have
really?
a second losers bracket match to play later today against Poland to decide who moves to the finals into the losers bracket. Hopefully a very, very intense match. I mean, both these teams have been performing very, very well, so stay tuned for that one. But
yeah, Poland has been on an absolute roll, so do stay tuned if you are interested in watching that one. That match is at 12 UTC. We have 3 more matches this weekend, one at 12 as you mentioned, one at 15 and one at 19. So do stick around, do check us out, do drop us a follow if you are interested and you don't want to miss another 6WC match. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, huge shout outs to everybody involved in this match. Wooden Pickaxe for reffing, Picksort for streaming, Will M for being my lovely co-cast today. And with that, any last words from you, man?
Absolutely no, I mean, very, very intense match. I mean, I don't think we could live up to the match we witnessed before, but very, very strong performance on both teams. Very, very good match, and I'm excited to see how China does against their match against Poland.
Yep, but with that, ladies and gentlemen, my name has been Gaming Cruella. You are watching another Project Hexagon stream. This has been 6WC 2025, and we'll see you in a few hours at 12 UTC for our China versus Poland match. So we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.